You might be thinking, look at that. Another kid posting Insta-snap tweets of his shoes. Can you believe that instead of doing his homework, he's watching videos from the latest rapper with Lil in his name? This screen time's just out of control. Now, what if you then walked over to this kid and he was looking up walking directions to MD Anderson Cancer Center or to the local funeral home? Is this an extreme example? Maybe, but maybe not. Would you really expect that this kid, born into this world, be standing there with an unfolded Rand McNally of the local area, looking for local landmarks to help him guide his journey? No. But the truth is, we all use our devices for much more than social media. But there seems to be a reality distortion field that surrounds these magical little boxes. They can take a completely innocuous situation and make it seem sinister. Education seems to be at the forefront of this great device debate. There are entire industries built around effective integration and strategic management of all of these different types of devices. There are books, blogs, articles, white papers, everything written on the subject. And they often come at it from diametrically opposed choices, left or right, up or down, on or off, too much screen time or none at all. But it's just not that simple, especially when we're talking about children and we're talking about education and we're talking about technology, and everyone's trying to do their best for kids, but all kids are different. Device or no device is the wrong question. What we need to be asking is what's the content and what's the behavior while on that device? Not just, is there a device? There's a big difference between scrolling through your Instagram feed and creating a video that's showcasing the impact of programs at your school. The device by itself is just an empty vessel. It doesn't create or consume or bully or browse or impact or innovate. It needs a user and apps and an operating system. So how do we rewrite the story? How do we change the narrative surrounding devices, surrounding usage, surrounding content? There are a lot of different ways we can do that. The first and probably the easiest is just to listen. Educational technology is almost all gray area. There's not one right answer. So it's really important that when you're involved in these discussions to actively listen and remember that we're all learning through this together, and that the digital world is an ecosystem. Screen time is just one measurement of that. It's constantly growing and changing, and you wouldn't try to judge this forest based on the average circumference of its earthworms, so we shouldn't be just looking at screen time. A hollow hypodermic needle and a plastic tube is not inherently good or bad. It's used for vaccines, which save lives. It's used for hard drugs, which take them away. It's what's inside that makes the difference. It's how it's used. So when we're looking at devices, let's look at content. Let's look at if that content is educating or if it's entertaining. Is it actively engaging or is it passively presenting? Are the users monitoring what they're doing? Because one thing that all teachers and parents know is that all kids are different. All kids are unique and they learn in different ways. And we need to focus on how effective specific content is for specific children. We're living in a connected world where we have so much information at our fingertips, and we have a really big challenge ahead of us by being able to filter through that information using the lens of our perspectives and our experiences because it's different for everybody. You wouldn't dream of just handing the keys of your car to a teenager without having discussions and conversations and sending them to classes about safe driving and how to be safe on the road. But we hand a device to a kid without having any of those just because they were born into a digital world. And before we look at the usage of our students and our children, we need to look at our own, right? Take a good hard look in the mirror and see what are we doing, because both our positive and our negative behaviors impact those young minds. Finally, don't leave it up to chance. Be deliberate and be intentional in your conversations with students, with children, about the difference between the device and the content and the behavior. This last slide is a picture my son took of me. I love it because it helps me remind me of what he sees when he looks at me. So when you leave ISTE this year, don't just think about what you saw in the products and programs. Okay, but think about what your students will experience, because that's why we're here. Thank you.